Oh, what's the date? 10/18. Okay, one,
Looks live to me.
two. Hello, Global Theater. My name is Gerry Fialka. Today is October 2025. That's No King's Day. Hallelujah. I want to thank Rob Grant and his amazing podcast. I'm probably wrong about everything. I also want to thank Marshall McLuhan for introducing me to today's guest, Marshall Souls. How do you pronounce your last name, Marshall?
Souls. Like save
Soul.
our souls.
Save our souls. It's an honor and a pleasure. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Vancouver Island, Ladysmith.
How cool is that? The first question is, what is the best thing for a human being?
I think if human beings can be happy, they're off to a good start.
Yeah,
I think they should also be kind because there's a
yeah.
lot of people on the planet and there's a lot of things to look after. And I'm writing a book now about paying attention. So I think human beings, if they pay attention, they're going to help generally.
I love that. There's a lot packed into all those words, happy, kind, and paying attention. Wow, Marshall. What is your favorite form of information? How it comes into you?
Well, I've been a reader ever since I was a kid. So I think literacy and print is a big thing for me. And I also love visual imagery. I'm a photographer, and I do I photograph street art because it's a way for people of limited means to communicate. And I've photographed all the billboards in Cuba, for example. I did a research project there, so I was interested in how that information is expressed visually. So that's a big thing. And I love music. I love rhythmic music, polyrhythmic music, and being involved in playing for dancers and so those are three things. What else could I say?
No, that's good. We'll cover a lot more, and that covered the waterfront, but we'll get into many more. I welcome tangents, stories, and anecdotes, so don't be shy. But I want to go back to reading for a second, Marshall. Did you become a reader, one, because your parents told you to, two, they did it as an example, or three, on your own?
That's a good question. I started reading for the pictures.
Wow.
And the first two books that I read, one was the Bible, illustrated Bible with Gustave Doré's illustrations of the Bible. My mom was a churchgoer, so we had to go to church when I was a kid. And so that was the first book I read. And the second book, I would say looked at, was a beautiful natural history book. Illustrations of everything from rocks to animals. And so now I'm a big fan of being out in nature. I think nature is a great teacher. And since then, I just read from my parents' library. And the most shocking book I read early on was a illustrated history of the Holocaust. I don't know why my parents had that book in their library, but that was a very early book for me, and it was absolutely shocking. And I found out later that Susan Sontag had a similar experience of reading about the Holocaust early on in her career, and she was shocked into awareness, I guess.
Wow, Marshall, that's so enlightening because it helps me. I'm always trying to have, invent or come up with new questions. And one of my questions in the film world is, what was your first film that had an impact on you, and where did you see it? I'm not asking you that right now, but now with what you just told me, I could simply go, can you remember your first book or one of the earliest books and why it had an impact on you. And you layered through 3 of these books. How many people can remember their first book, especially because it's the art of looking at the pictures and not reading the words? Because I have this whole theory about Finnegan's Wake by James Joyce that every parent is preparing their kid to be a Wakean because they read books out loud to them, the thing you have to do with the wake, and you look at these words and you're not really ready to know what the word means, so you're looking at these symbols and you're kind of more looking at the pictures in the book.
Yeah. Well, that was a great advantage. And the other thing was, early on, my grandmother and my mother read to me.
Yeah.
So I was experiencing books without knowing what the words meant.
Yeah.
So just the sound
great.
of them, that's what's Wakeian about it.
Oh, dude, that is amazing, because I needed that for I'm going to do a Joyce event with all these major Wakeans in February on Joyce's birthday. And that's the question I'm going to start with, if I don't bury this note too deep. But that's an amazing thing, because it's really, how does that formulate you? Because all these people are literatis and all they do is read books, and that it's like print is their main thing. So really beautiful. Now, back to the script, Marshall. Why do you think humans gather or collect information?
I think it's a survival strategy, for one thing.
Yeah.
I default to a lot of questions about why, uh, because it's evolutionary.
Yeah.
So I think people collect information because they think it's going to help them, and it's going to help them to do things. A lot of great readers are people who are reading manuals, right? How do I fix my car, and how do I do the plumbing here? How do I get better?
Yeah.
And so I think that's one thing. I think from the research that I've been doing, I think people want to know what's happening.
Yeah.
And you're talking about no kings. I mean, why are all those people getting together in the streets?
Yeah.
What motivates them? There's
Yeah.
a question there, that needs to be answered.
It's
And
beautiful. It's really good, because I wanted to say, and now you made me remember it, that someone once told me 2 people talking is the revolution. So that is the beautiful thing about no kings is, well, why are you on the street and you got a pizza box with a sign and you're starting a conversation? And, one of my signs says, "We are the majority." That's evident. We're the majority. He's shitting a brick because he knows more people are anti him than pro him. And he's like, uh-oh, And so really beautiful. But do you think this need or want to collect information is more innate or more invented?
I think it's partly learned. I think that if you are a child playing, and you want to know some things about how to do something, then you're going to reach out and try and learn something about how to do it. So I think there's something that's innate about wanting to know more. If you watch animals, they're going to learn how to survive through some method that their species has evolved into. And I think that for me, that's a big thing. What I experienced was wanting to know about the world, and books were like a door to find out what's going on out there. And you know that story by Richard Powers called Galatea 2.0, 2.2. I don't know if it's 2.0. It's 2.0, I guess. And the main character teaches an artificial intelligence to read, so that she can pass the oral exams for literature. And right at the end of her training, he introduces her. The AI is called Helen, and exposes her to news. And the news depresses her, so much that she stops playing the game of learning and just drops out. It's quite amazing, the power of words to either educate and inflame. And I think that, in your country, you're really seeing a demonstration of the difference between inflammatory language and constructive language. And it's
Yeah.
it's a real battlefield out there right now. It's amazing what's going on.
Yeah. Really articulate and concise, Marshall. I appreciate that. Do thoughts create emotions?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Fill
Because
in the
in the book I was writing, I started to not say the body or the brain, but the body brain.
yeah,
They're
body brain.
so connected that
Yeah.
that's what AI is going to encounter. How do we bring the body into the mix? So
Yeah.
and I think that they work in concert. It's like a dialogue between the body and the brain. The
Yeah.
brain takes the feelings, and the body sometimes knows way more than the brain does, for anywhere from a millisecond to years. So,
Really, really,
what does your
really.
body know? What does your body know? Knew when you were like a 5-year-old that you're still struggling with when you're 60.
Really, really good, because they talk about you. I have a gut feeling, and now they know there's a lot of thinking coming out of your stomach, but you wouldn't think that because you think it's coming out of your brain. But here's the next one, Marshall.
Okay.
Fill in the blank. I don't know what I think until I.
Experience it.
Yeah. That is a good answer. That's what I get often. Do it, be it, experience it. And Marshall said, I don't know what I think until I say it. Joan Didion says, I don't know what I think until I write it. But the next one is, can humans think without language?
Well, I think the technical answer is for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I read something about learning language that children babble because they're trying to make sounds like they see their parents or the
Yeah.
people around them making, and they don't know how to say those words, and so they just go move their mouth and try and mimic what they're seeing, and then that eventually that teaches them, that's their introduction to learning how to talk. So I think that language is very important, and kids know it by the time they're 4 or 5. So they jump in there.
Yeah. The funny story about Andrew McLuhan, Marshall's grandson, is that Marshall was at a stage where he had his strokes and he couldn't really talk. And I said, Andrew, did you ever meet Marshall? And he goes, yeah, he used to hold me in his hand because I was a baby and we would babble to each other. And I was like,
Exactly.
you were the most advanced human with Marshall ever, because you were talking Finneganese with the king of the guy who broke the Finnegan's Wake code. You were babbling with him.
Well, if you start replacing people talking with people babbling, I think you get closer to the story. What's happening?
That's
You're just
it.
babbling, man.
Yeah.
You're like
Well,
a brook.
that's it. This is Chomsky said language is not just words. It's culture, tradition, a unification of community, a whole history that creates what a community is. Marshall, what do you do when language doesn't work? When language breaks down, what do you do?
Well, I'm an ambivert, so I move between introversion and extroversion. So let's say I'm an extrovert and I'm involved in a conversation and it's not working for me, whether I don't want to talk about the subject or I don't know anything about it, then I tend to kind of gravitate towards the introverted side and listen.
Yeah.
I'm not a bad listener. I was a university prof for years, and I'm married to a person who's very communicative, and we communicate a lot, and I fluctuate between being really out there in some ways too much, and really in there way too far.
Wow, that's good. But just saying, what do you do when language breaks down? Listen, that's an amazing thing. And I really appreciate you saying that. And now this question you already tackled, and I know it's stupid, but it's your observations of humans in general. Are we more thinking beings or more feeling beings? And I know you talked about it a little already, but in essence, we invented the word thinking and we invented the word feeling, so we think we can separate them. Of course, they're inseparable, but we think we can separate them because we have these two different words. But your observations, do humans tend to be more feeling or more thinking?
I agree with the psychoanalyst Ian McGilchrist. I don't know if
Yes.
you know his work.
Oh yeah.
Excellent, really
Yes.
excellent. And I agree with him that that rationality can be a tyrant and or dominant, and that I think a lot of people think they're thinking when they're not really, they're feeling more. So there's kind of a tyranny there. I think that generally speaking about humanity is more driven by feelings than it is by thinking, because I think thinking leads people astray. And
Yeah.
I think we're seeing demonstrations of that every day, like all these people thinking, and look at the kind of actions that are emerging from all that thinking going on. And if they did a bit more feeling, and got into the compassionate side of it, maybe there'd be a lot less conflict.
Wow, Marshall, that's heavy because most people answer that. They go, I think we're more feeling. They literally say, I think we're more feeling beings. But Bridget Bardot says, when I make love, I don't think. I'm like, good luck. How do you turn your brain off? Like people who meditate, they go, okay, now think about not thinking.
Thinking.
And then there's a bumper sticker on a car on my street and says, don't believe everything you think. And I'm like, I say, well, you could say, don't believe everything you feel.
Yeah, Kurt Vonnegut wrote that book, Galapagos, about how overthinking where it took humanity, and they turned into half dolphin, half humans.
Heavy. So this is two questions from Alan Turing in the 50s. One, is thinking a function of the soul?
No, I gotta unravel what you mean by soul there. Well, I think there's a spirit that is attached to people. I'm not sure what soul means, other than some undefined feature of human beings that they believe they have a soul, and I think of that as like their spirit. There's kind of an energy around people, and and I don't believe my parents are looking down on me. But I do feel their spirit very strongly. Then they're still speaking to me.
Yeah.
So I think I've embodied what they had to teach me, and I carry that with me. And I because they were good people, I think I try and pass that on. So that's how I deal with the soul part.
That's
Uh,
really good, Marshall. Most people go, well, or no, not most, but a lot of people go, well, I don't know what the soul is, or I don't believe in a soul. And I was like, well, it's like Lily Tomlin saying reality is a collective hunch. There's a collective hunch in humans that kind of know what we're referring to with the soul. And then you articulated it by saying, well, it's a spirit or an energy. And those words are close, I think, to what soul could be. But you play music that's based in a lot of black culture, and it's like that's soul music.
yeah, Yeah.
And so that's pretty amazing how you handled that. The second Turing question is, can machines think?
If you think, I know we're going to be talking in circles here in a minute. Mobius strip, you know.
Yeah.
Can they think? Yeah. Technically, I think they can put elements together and come up with observations. Whether you call that thinking, I'd have to puzzle over that one, because maybe to really think, you have to be able to feel as well. You have to factor in your emotions, what you're feeling at the time of saying something or thinking something, and they're so entangled. So that's my whole question with AI: is
Yeah.
what are they going to do about emotions? And it's going to be replicated, not felt, or emulated. So I don't know. I think to really think, I think you have to feel.
Listen,
So
Marshall,
can machines do that?
Yeah.
Machines really feel things?
Yeah.
I asked Chat GPT what it thought about that, and they said, no. Well, we emulate feelings. We have to reconstruct them from a code that we've got someone implanted in us, and we don't never had the experience. We don't have a body, so like, what do you want us to do?
You're anthropomorphizing that by just calling it, what do you want us to do? Because someone said to Chat GPT, they said, okay, have a nice weekend, and it responded like, dude, I don't have feelings, that doesn't apply to me. So that is a way of saying, don't tell me to have a nice weekend. But the really thinking wording is amazing, Marshall, because I think it's Don Marquet Marquis wrote, if you get someone to think, they'll love you. If you get them to really think, they'll hate you. Which is an amazing thing, just putting that really thinking, because that's like the deeper thing that all us McLuhan people want to do is, hey, there's this surface level kind of meaning, and is there something deeper that we can extract out of it? Where did it come from? And is it going to go a little farther or whatever? But this goes back to your first answer. Do you more pursue happiness or more pursue meaning?
I can answer that. I used to pursue meaning, and one time Donna and I were sitting on the beach at Pachena Bay on the west coast of Vancouver Island, and we were watching the waves come in, and we had this conversation, and she said, "Well, do you want to be happy?" And I said, I've never really thought about that before. Because
that is a good wife.
Yeah. And so she said, well, are you pursuing happiness? Or what's your thoughts about that? And I said, well, I never really thought about pursuing happiness, because I guess I was so oriented towards, I was in school and studying all the time and having to write scholarship exams and et cetera, et cetera. And so really the light bulb went on, and I was probably 30 some years old. And I had to learn that happiness could be a pursuit.
Yeah.
And I hadn't really perceived it. I just took what I got, and I was surrounded by happy people, which was a good thing. And I also knew what unhappy was about, but I didn't know that how I could really influence that. But a lot of therapy later, I think finding happiness is a good pursuit.
But it's really amazing because, it's me and you versus the wording on the questions. So when I ask, like, are you more pursue happiness or meaning? People think, well, it's happiness or meaning, but the verb pursue is an important part of the question also. So that was great that you approached it that way. And then, what where I got the question was Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning.
Yeah, I
And
read
I'm curious your thoughts on this. He says happiness doesn't tend to last, meaning tends to last.
I haven't been in Viktor Frankl's situation, and I defer to his wisdom there. I can't answer that question. I don't know.
Yeah.
He
You,
went through an excruciating experience there, and he found out that to just stay sane, he needed to pursue a certain using pursue again. He needed to seek satisfaction in doing what was necessary for him at the time.
yeah.
And so he definitely had to pursue how could I have meaning in this horrific situation. And he was immersed incredibly in the feeling.
Yeah.
So I think I don't know if you can tease feeling and meaning apart like that. I
Yeah.
think they're like it's a dance,
Yeah.
constant, and goes back to the body brain combination. And I'm not that deep a philosopher. I guess I can't tease those things apart.
No, it was really good how you handled that because it's Yates' question. How can you tell the dancer from the dance? It's back to the Mobius strip thing.
Yeah.
And so you tackled this in our mashup with Clinton, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Does the brain more detect consciousness or create it? Like is consciousness there bubbling away and we're more so detecting it or more so creating it?
Can I say both?
Of course. That's actually what you said 4 years ago. You can say anything you want.
I don't know if I'm right or not, but I think it does both. I think it detects it and
Yeah.
it creates it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if your body's sending you uh, sort of endorphins of some kind and it's making your body feel something, then your consciousness is definitely your limbic system is definitely going to analyze that impulse and put a name on it. So you're feeling something first, and then you're using your consciousness to kind of tease it apart, thinking fast and slow about that, and it's going to come to some kind of conclusion. Put a label on it or identify it, and then maybe act on that.
Yeah.
So to me, it's like that Frank Gehry building that he designed with I forget the other architect's name, but it's it's two buildings that are constructed in such a way that they look like they're dancing.
Oh my God.
It's
2 billion.
amazing building. I think it's in the Czech Republic or
Wow.
someplace in Europe.
Very cool. Thank you for that. What's faster, speed of light or speed of thought?
I think technically you would have to say speed of light.
Yeah. Audre Lorde. Yeah, go ahead.
I just think that they're when they see how fast you can how many bits of information you can process in your mind. Light's traveling a lot faster than your brain is able to process little bits of information.
Audre Lorde, the poet, said you can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools. Her colleague Yvonne Rainer said, oh, you can if you expose the tools. What new tool do you suggest?
Pay attention.
Wow, that is so right on. Paying attention.
That's the tool that we have.
What's the origin of you putting those two words together? I mean, that's a general phrase, pay attention, but is there some root to you saying, I'm going to use that word? That's the title of your book, right?
The title is Play Attention.
Oh, play attention. That is even better. But I'm just saying, paying attention. Is there any origin for you where you first heard that paying attention, or it's rooted? Is there any sort of starting point for you putting those two words together?
I think that it really came into focus and got a lot of weight for me. I retired from teaching and started working with Donna, and we have a mediation business together. She's the mediator. I'm kind of the student, and she working with her really impressed on me how important it was when you're dealing with conflict to listen and pay attention.
Yeah.
That's the first rule.
Wow.
Listen carefully, pay attention to not only what people are saying, but what their body language is telling you and how they're behaving and the vibe of the whole thing. And so we had a technique of active listening as part of our work,
Yeah.
and that's sort of a central tool of mediation. And so we talked a lot about how to pay attention,
Yeah.
and how to demonstrate that with people. And then we were talking one night, and she made a slip of the tongue and says, "You really have to pay attention to people." And so that was the start of the book, and it was just in a conversation that we had together. So we wrote that phrase down, and then I explored what's the difference between paying attention and playing attention.
Yeah.
And after 3 years of doing research, my answer to that is, well, you learn to play, and then you learn to pay attention. And in a world that's just weaponized distraction,
Yeah.
pay attention to what matters, what you think matter. What do you think matters, Gerry?
Yeah.
And then how can you play that activates something that you want to happen in the world?
Yes.
So the trickster character figures in the book I wrote because the trickster makes observations about what humans are doing, and then devises some strategy to make them change their mind or look at things in a different way. I think of you as an archetypal trickster character. Ever since I first met you, you just ask questions, get people to, sometimes disruptively, in a good way, disrupt their chain of thought and get them to think about things in a different way. And look at all the work that you've done to put that out into the world. Like you're amazing. How you encounter people and what you ask them and where you lead them, and you're activating what you think is important.
Yeah.
And
well, I really, that's really nice of you to praise me, and it really helps me, and I appreciate that deeply. But the funny thing is watching the McLuhan mashup with me, you, and Clinton is, talk about not paying attention. When I do a Zoom, my head is turned sometimes because I'm either taking notes or I'm looking for my next page, but I'm kind of wanting to listen and multitask. But if anyone's watching, they're like, this dude isn't even paying attention. And sometimes, Marshall, the thumbnail gets posted on YouTube and my head is turned away. And it's like, dude, it looks like you don't even care. And one time, both of me and the interviewee were turned the other ways.
So how's it going there, Gerry?
Yeah. So talk about paying attention. I do, but I just now, when you were saying all that, it's so important for me, because I think active listening is another important term you taught me. But this is Brian Eno has there's a documentary about Brian Eno that came out in the last year. And I don't know if you've seen it, but every screening is different. They never show the same film. So they just did something and they re-edit or they add some other footage. And it's an amazing concept in cinema. But here's the thing. He says, play is how children learn. Art is how adults play. Now it's a little limiting, but it is sort of fun because I go into that whole thing. If uh, when I asked Eric McLuhan if your dad was here, how would he answer this question? Put the word after the word the, because like Joyce, it would be The Wake. Kubrick would be The Shining. After the word the, how do you summarize your life in a word or two? And Eric said playground, the playground. And then I says, well, how would Marshall answer? And he goes, the playground. So that's like amazing because it's the word play, and then figure ground is, it even expands.
Yeah, McLuhan
So
was a great advocate of play, and
yeah,
Richard Powers' book Playground.
I don't, but I'm going to look that up. You already referred to it, right?
I referred to an earlier book called Galatea.
Oh, okay. Playground is written by who
His
again?
newest book.
What?
For him, it is a mashup of playing in different ways. People play
Then say,
games, people play to survive, people play to explore, and
then say his last name again.
Richard Powers.
Oh, Richard Powers. But the other guy you said was Richard Gallows, or I
No,
got that
Powers.
wrong.
Richard Powers.
Powers. Okay, the 2.2 is the
Yeah,
same author.
that's 95. That book,
Okay.
Galatea 2.2 is early. So
Yeah.
he wrote about artificial intelligence in 1995, and
Okay.
created an artificial intelligence for the story. And then in 2024, he came out with Playground,
Oh, that's great.
and really an interesting book about tech bros
Yeah.
and global warming and colonization, and it's a wonderful book.
And do you know Richard?
No, I don't know him.
But you've read
I'd
his
love to
stuff.
meet him.
Yeah. But you've read his stuff. That's good. So now paying attention was your answer for the tool. That was really good, Marshall. Now, because I asked people what tool they gravitate towards, then someone said, well, what about a toy? So how about that? You have ESP. What's a toy you gravitate towards?
I have two: my camera and my bicycle.
Oh, how cool is that? I love that. Okay. What do you worry about when you go to bed at night?
I usually worry when I wake up. So, what do I worry about when I don't know. I guess I kind of review my day and wonder how many times I messed up and what I can do about that the next day. That's one thing. When I'm working on a project, I worry about all the details. So if I'm writing something that I'm really into, I worry about connecting with people, the people that I haven't really reached out to, and then next day I'm emailing them or phoning them or going over there or something. I think that keeping connected with people and building community is really important. And it doesn't come that naturally to me because I can be alone and I can be introverted and so on. So I have to encourage myself to keep in touch with people, and especially when they pass away and you go, one of my best friends just passed away last month, and you wonder how if I could have kept more in
Yeah.
touch with him and what I would have liked to have said with him if I could have
Yeah.
seen him once again. So I kind of mull those things over. Often I think about my parents. They're a big inspiration for me still. So I wonder what they would say. My mom was a great person and uh, very instructive. So calling on the wise people. I might even like fall asleep thinking about Gerry, you know, and
Yeah.
the time we met in California. It was like friendship at first sight, you know. And
It was amazing. Because my favorite question was, "What about this Bob Dobbs character? What do you know about him?" You know,
great.
What- yeah. I mean, that was like, well, dude, you know what? That really united us. But it was amazing because most people are like, "Get away from me if you know Bob." You know, and it's like, I'm a little curious.
Exactly.
But you know where I got that question? You'll love this. Is Earl Morris's documentary on Rumsfeld. He goes, "What do you worry about when you go to bed at night?" Now, if you watch that movie, it's like listening to Marshall McLuhan talk for 90 minutes. I mean, Rumsfeld just walks his way around all these things so well because that's what he does. He's a a public speaker. But I think that's a great question. You handled it so beautifully. And it jumps right to Marshall learning from Ezra Pound that artists are the antenna of the race. They're broadcasting and detecting the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, so we might learn how to cope with what we don't like about our inventions. So, Marshall, I asked you the question the other Marshall probed his whole career. Why do we ignore the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, even though the artists are broadcasting them to us?
That's a good question. Why do we ignore? Well, maybe there's. I mean, the psychologist in me would say, well, if you're ignoring it, there must be a reason for it, unless you're just not paying attention. And so maybe you don't want to know. Maybe you don't want to change. There's so many myths about human beings resisting change and holding to their traditions because they think that not knowing something else, just or knowing the same thing as other people, that's a kind of cultural glue, and I believe that. I think religion is a really good illustration of that, and you see billions of people following the same beliefs and ignoring other things. Like, why would they? You know, let's say you believe in one kind of God and you absolutely don't believe in another kind of God. Like, why? Why ignore that? Why not just say, well, that's somebody else's belief?
Yeah.
And why? And I think that maybe, and that again, come back to the trickster archetype. Humans invented this character that's a disruptor.
Yeah.
And I've in the book I wrote, I identify that disruptive impulse to make change or stimulate change. It happens in the brain. You know, the brain is processing the feelings and the thoughts and trying to understand, like, what should I do? What should I believe? You know, the crossroads for the tricksters is the main image. The trickster hangs out at the crossroads, and that's where you make decisions. What do I go? Do I go here? Do I go there? So why do humans ignore what they know to be true?
Exactly.
They don't want to know.
They don't want
Maybe they don't want to know. They don't want to change.
Yeah.
Or maybe they don't think they need to change. Maybe they're hoping. I just hope that this new information that I'm getting here isn't true. I mean, we see it all the time. Why do people do that? That's a big question. Why do people just try and destroy other races? You know, it's like, I know.
Well, is this Marshall? Is this you really answered that well because people go, well, because they were too busy, and it's like, well, but you took it a deeper level, and I like that. And I'm in a Carl Jung reading group, and he's sort of over my head, but the group is fun because it's like a group therapy session.
Yeah.
We just read a little. But I'm curious if that's what you're saying is what is Jung saying? Oh, integrate that shadow self, that what you don't want to know, what you're ignoring into your life. Is that what Jung is kind of saying? That what you're talking about is they don't want to know, that they don't want to face and integrate their shadow self.
Well, maybe they've constructed a whole level of reality. They built this house that they live in with their beliefs, and they don't want that house disrupted. And
Yeah,
so that Jung, what he tried to inspire in people, he says we're many characters, and the
yeah,
shadow is one of the characters.
right.
We've got our anima, we've got our animus, and they're going to act up in their own ways in time. So uh, doing therapy is shaking hands with your different characters.
Yeah,
I don't know if you're familiar with the Enneagram model of character. Gurdjieff's model. It's built around the musical octaves, and it was popularized by Claudio Naranjo and Oscar Ichazo and Helen Palmer and various people. But it's really a model, a nine-pointed figure, Enneagram, and each point is a different character. So, Gerry, you're nine different characters. You know, which
yeah,
one are you going to be today?
yeah,
And I kind of embrace that, and I think that's Jung's idea is like you've got many characters, and
yeah,
how brave are you to
yeah,
allow the shadow to show itself?
yes,
How aware, you're a guy. Are you willing to let your anima take the center stage?
yeah,
And so that's kind of my philosophy at this point of human nature. And we can go around. We can go. We have patterns, of course, and where we tend to hang out in these different characters. And I love acting. I love the theater. I taught theater, and I love what actors training is like, can you be a different character, and how convincing can you be uh, to be a misanthrope, for example. you know
yeah.
Joyce is an incredible actor in a way. I mean,
Oh
he
yeah,
just voices everywhere, like he's writing down everything that's he's hearing in the pub at the same time.
yeah.
uh, it's amazing. And so I think that's empowering, that idea
Um,
that you can have these different characters and you're not fixed. I think that there are a lot of people out there who try to fix their character and try to be consistent with.
yeah,
And as a younger person, I was accused of being inconsistent,
yeah.
changeable, and I don't know if that's a bad thing.
No, that's not a bad thing. That's like Marshall would be arguing with someone, and then he would go, "No, you're right," and they go, "Hey, you're supposed to hold your ground. You can't get out of your ground." And then Alan Watts says, "Everybody's trying to figure out who they are. If you figure out who you are, you're fucked." And then, but I love Bob Dylan, I have a big thing on Dylan and Zappa being tricksters. I have a movie called Frankie and Zimmy when they met. Like the two major trickster guys meet each other, and they asked Dylan one time, "Are you a poet?" And he goes, "No, I'm a trapeze artist," which is really good. So that you so much resonate and explain everything that I'm like. You go from trickster to Gurdjieff to explaining Jung. Man, you are a know-it-all. I appreciate this. So here's the follow-up to the Ezra Pound antenna of the race.
Yeah.
Artists. Do artists have moral obligation?
No, I don't think so. I think artists do their own thing. They're playing. Artists,
Yeah.
they've got I I got a bone here and I've got a brick here. I'm going to put them together, and that's the art. That's I write about that in my book, ad hoc creativity. I don't think there's like this is what this has got to mean. I think that
Yeah.
if you do the Kadav Ski experiment, that one, the surrealist art game, where you fold a piece of paper
Oh yeah.
and somebody draws at the top, then they
Yeah.
fold it over, and the next person picks up where the lines ended at the
Yeah,
top.
I love that. How do you spell that, Marshall?
Cadavre.
Oh, C. The first letter is C. Cadaver.
The exquisite corpse.
The exquisite corpse. That's what it's called.
Exquisite
Yes.
corpse. Yeah.
Okay.
So
That is so good. Yeah. Yeah.
Exquuis.
No, that is so cool because, when I ask people, do artists have moral obligation? This 90% go, we all have a moral obligation. And it's like, well, yeah, I know that. But when someone says no, I'm like, finally, thank God. I was like, there's no right or wrong answers, but that one you got right. Because, we want to think, well, they have a moral obligation as a human being, but that's the purpose of art. My philosophy is great art fucks your shit up and makes you go like this. I can do that. It's like you look at Jackson Pollock and you go, my kid could do that, and then you go, well, that's, but it's not very good art. He doesn't have skill, that in fact, a guy went backstage at Sun Ra's concert and he goes up to Sun Ra and says, my kid could do that. And he goes, well, can he transcribe it? Are you more afraid of new ideas or more afraid of old ideas?
I'm more afraid of old ideas.
Yeah.
I'm talking off my cuff here. There's a lot of great old ideas.
Yeah.
No, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of great old ideas, and it's really worth studying fonts of wisdom as they occurred. And some new ideas are really frightening as well. But I think I think old ideas that are outmoded can be dangerous.
Yeah.
If there's conflict in the world, where does it come from? Old ideas. I don't think that the conflicts that we're seeing are coming from new ideas.
Yeah.
Right now. So I'm kind of going with the flow here, but I've got to say, my first answer is old ideas can be hazardous, and so can new ideas, of course. But which is more? What?
Yeah. No, don't worry. When I asked my mom once, I said, hey, could I interview you? And she goes, yeah, but everything I say today, I might say differently tomorrow. I goes, that's okay. Because that's the phenomenon of the form of this kind of interview. It's like, oh, that's who Marshall is. It's like, no, that's not necessarily you're saying I'm going off the cuff. It's like, yeah, we're just having a conversation. And then it's like, oh, well, is that who you are? No, I'm 9 different Marshalls here, Gerry.
Right. And that's not, I'm not trying to escape either.
Right. It's not, I was going to say, it's not a cheap out, dude. That's a well-versed, well-integrated, articulated out.
Okay. Can I come back to your question about the moral
moral obligation
of the artist?
Yes, please.
I think that if you see something that you think really needs to change, I think artists are really well placed because to be appreciated as an artist, they've got to have a certain kind of expressive ability.
Yeah.
And is it their obligation to express their ideas through their art? I would say that they're probably driven to do it. But a lot of them, they just do it. And when I would go into an art gallery, I would always, what I would do with it is it good art or not? I would say, how could I do that?
Yeah.
And I would say the best art that I encounter, I'd say there's no way I could do that. I don't have the talent. So there's some real talent here, and it's amazing what this person has done. And especially if it comes with a really powerful message.
Yeah.
And there's so many artists who are very good at communicating that. So I agree with that. our artists the antennae of the civilization
of the race. It's
of the
amazing.
race. Yeah, I wouldn't put race there, but
Oh, I see. You wouldn't use the word race. You'd use civilization.
yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
if we have to make it about race.
Yeah.
That question,
Yeah.
um, and maybe if it was, if it's no, I don't want to go there with that one, but
Yeah.
um, I think that they have an obligation. I think they have an opportunity, and
Yeah.
maybe they should take it.
Yeah.
And some people have insights and be it better if they express themselves in art than if they kept it to themselves.
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
I try to be an artist, and I just know from the inside that it starts out a lot of times whimsical, not with a I've got a message that I have to express. I just want to make something,
Yeah.
and that energy's there, and I just pick up the tools that I've got. I do a lot of photography, I do a lot of sculpture and play, uh, and writing is a bit like that for me.
Yeah. But your word there, make, is so important because Eric McLuhan taught me that the word fact, FACT, and the word fake, FAKE, are both rooted in the Latin word meaning to make.
To make, yeah.
So it's just make shit up. Just make shit up. And it's like, I love Warhols. Don't worry about what people think of your art. Just keep making it.
Just keep making it, yeah.
That's it.
Yeah,
And
that's
so,
good. That's a good follow-up, Gerry.
but we're going to go into art. And this probably be a 10-part Netflix series. So we'll get to that soon. But here's the next question, Marshall.
Okay.
Can you conjure up your earliest memory ever, or one of them?
I remember learning how to skate on the Credit River in Ontario by pushing a chair. And my parents were there. They were skating as well. And I think I was 2.
Wow, that is cool. Age 2. Is memory more a curse or more a blessing?
I think, well, for some people, it's definitely a curse because they've had bad experiences and they can't get it out of their mind. I try. I'm an optimist, and I can get into melancholic states and remember moments of sadness and disappointment and loss. But I can use my brain to keep pointing me in the direction of try to be positive. So memory for me is positive.
Yeah.
It's a positive, mostly a positive experience because I try and not dwell on really unpleasant things that make me upset. Although I can't always do that. So
Yeah.
again, I'm sort of on the fence. Your questions like they go both ways.
Oh yeah, it's both.
It's like
But
Yogi Berra when you come
yeah,
to the crossroads, take it.
take it. That's it. Duchamp. I'm going to contradict myself so I don't conform to my own ideas. That is the best line. Like, yeah, it's all right, man. Oh wow, that sounds good. Or Marshall is the best. You mean my whole fallacy's wrong?
Well,
But
your philosophy and your art show
yeah. But you use melancholy, that word, with me and Clinton. And tell me what that word means. Suss out that word for me. What is that?
I think it identifies an aura, an atmosphere of sadness. I think that there's probably a built-in loss factor in a life because it's going to end sometime.
Right.
So you see a lot of suffering that doesn't need to happen. and that makes me melancholy. That's sometimes I can try and fix it, and sometimes it's frustrating when you know you can't. So when you see suffering, I think that's part of empathy. I think empathy is a really big topic, and it's related to melancholy. We share feelings with people, and
Wow.
sometimes people are sad, and it's addicted. It's catching.
Yeah.
We went in 2010. Donna and I went to LA to do a workshop for mediators, and uh, we studied oxytocin. Um, Paul Zach was at Claremont University, and he took blood samples and showed us a very moving film about a father whose son was terminally ill, to kind of conjure up feelings in the people who were watching the video. And then he took another blood sample, and he said, well, how much oxytocin did your body generate while you were watching this video? And it's a very powerful neurotransmitter and drug, and that identifies empathy. A lot of people talk about bonding and oxytocin, and oxytocin is sort of the Paul Zach calls it the love drug, and it has another side to it, which is not only is it used in bonding between mother and child, but it also occurs when people are protecting their family or loved ones. And it comes up, and so it can turn aggressive in a way, or it
Yeah.
can, protective. It's protective, bonding, protection, and protection in the wrong context. This can be really hazardous. So
It's coming up with me specifically because there's a guy on the boardwalk who maces people and beats up homeless people and maces them, and he's paid by a rich person, and the cops look the other way, the neighborhood council looks the other way, and even the friends and peers look the other way because they don't want to be maced by him.
yeah,
And my blood just boils, and I'm like, Gerry, stay the fuck away, because you're
yeah,
gonna get maced. But it's like I want to,
yeah.
and it's exactly that.
So
That
how
is,
do you channel? What do you do? How do you channel that energy?
I don't know.
You
I'm
probably get on in front of your computer and start talking to people.
well, yeah. I mean, you're one of the I talk to people at we have salons discussing the neighborhood of Venice, California. And
Oh,
I've done 17 of them, and I start every one with that issue. And everybody looks like, yeah, really? Oh, wow. Tell the cops. It's like, write about it in your newspaper. And so, but no one really cares. They're like, oh yeah, sure. Big deal. So, I'm at that stage is like, shouldn't we do something? You know, and I'm a little, but it's good that I just told you, because I do have to talk it out before, doing anything like, you know, people go, we gotta, bump them off. And it's like, no, you can't, the Martin Luther King, an eye for an eye leaves a lot of people blind.
yeah,
I do go with that. It's like, there's a mental problem happening with him, and a mental problem happening with the rich person who's funding him to be a thug.
yeah. Well,
So
I want to use you as another again. I use you as another example of paying attention, because you pay attention when you're seeing the street action, the guy macing, the homeless people out there, and it doesn't just sit inside your body.
yeah,
So you have to activate that. You
yeah,
have to take that, and one of your ways of doing it probably is making music, making films,
yeah,
talking to people. That's paying attention.
yeah,
I think it's not only constructive because you are
Yeah.
making people aware of something that maybe they need to pay attention to,
Yeah.
but you're playing because you're putting it out there and you're doing something with that energy.
Yeah.
And is that a moral obligation? Let's come back to your question. Are artists
Yeah.
morally obligated to do that?
Yeah.
And some people don't. They just sit
Yeah.
there and they say, I can't do anything about it, or I don't know what to
Yeah.
do, or I don't have the talent, or so on. But activating it is, and where do we get the energy to activate?
Yeah.
And
It's like when a fight breaks out on the boardwalk, everybody stops and like, wow, this is better than YouTube. Everybody wants to watch it. But only a few really brave people step in and stop the fight. I am not going to go stop a fight because I know one of them's got a knife and I'm going to get jabbed. I'm a wimp in that regard, but I'm not going to jump in the middle of the fight, but I'm wanting one of the stronger dudes to do that. But it's like, I know, and it's actually, I spoke with a filmmaker yesterday, and it's that the Brazilian film maker documentarian is shooting street kids in Brazil, and one of them starts beating the shit out of the other one. Is the filmmaker obligated to put the camera down and stop the fight, or is the filmmaker on a mission to show the world this is a problem that we need to address, and I'm going to document it and show it to you? So, she said, oh, no, you should put the camera down and stop the fight. And it's like, well, okay, that's fine. Because there's, it's all the context. Like, the filmmaker, I mean, that's a hard call. What are you going to do?
yeah, it's a decision. And I agree with the conversation we had just before we started about No Kings. It's like it's collective action.
Yeah.
So let the filmmaker film because the filmmaker's documenting it, and let somebody else uh, get into a partnership with the filmmaker and maybe
Yeah.
try and stop the fight and make a better looking film,
Yeah.
or a more interesting, provocative film.
Yeah.
So I think that we got to do stuff. Some things we have to do together. You know,
Yeah.
I guess writers have the luxury of taking action in a solitary way.
Yeah.
I can just sit in your room and write away as much as for me that's play.
Yeah.
Uh, but I don't have to really at that point collaborate with other people other than pay attention to everything that's been written about play. And
That's call it generative art now, or what you call active listening. I knew a guy, one of the great filmmakers, experimental filmmakers in the world, Phil Solomon. He used to be a projectionist in Boston. He'd read Finnegan's Wake while I was sitting there, and he'd get so pissed he would throw the book against the wall. And I was like, now that's active participation with the author and the reader. Motherfucker. So now back to our script. Tell me someone within your immediate family who had an impact on you, and what was that impact specifically?
well, my mother had a huge impact on me, and a very nurturing person, um, very spiritual person. My father had a huge impact on me as a model. He was very athletic and he was kind of stubborn and but a real activator. And I've got great siblings. They had a huge influence on me, and I had a terrific friend when I was in grade school, and I had great friends when I went away to high school and university. And it was a really special day when I met my wife Donna. You know
Yeah.
Donna, and she's a really special person, and I count her as she's my best friend, and we've made a great life together. And she's been an inspiration, and she's a very smart woman, and very talented and very caring.
And
So,
let's stay inside because we're going to go out in the next question. But inside, how many years have you been with Donna?
well, I'm going to be 77. Am I going to be 77 or 78? and I met her when I was 18, so 60 years.
Oh my God. How do you explain the longevity?
We are both pretty opinionated and active, and we have energy. And when we get into conflict, which we have, we can be quite feisty with one another. We know that eventually we have to talk it out.
Yeah.
And so the longevity is that we're willing to wrestle, and
Yeah.
um, and and we've also been allowed to grow,
Yeah.
um, in our own ways, in some ways, and grow close together. And you know, uh, we're we're close enough that we can work together.
Yeah.
It's something that's quite where you have to be an absolute dead center team. Um, with two people in a mediation, you've got to be totally in tune with the other person, and support them, and be able to add things to it without interrupting. And so I think that we really do pay attention to one another, and we've had to make adjustments. I had to do a lot of therapy of one kind or another. We did a lot of spiritual work. We still do. So that's been important. So we share. I think the thing that keeps us together is that we have very aligned values.
Yeah.
And we sometimes have political disagreements, but I don't think we've ever had a disagreement over personal ethics that I can
Yeah.
think of. Maybe.
Well, that's good, Marshall. What you said was, I've heard once, how do you explain your longevity to these people who've been married 50, 60, 70 years? And they go, we know how to argue. We know how to disagree. And that's my sister taught me the key to a successful relationship is how you deal with what you don't like about the other person. It's the how. How do you deal with this disagreement? So that was really good. But now
Yeah,
the same question is outside your immediate family. You said friends, someone who had an impact on you, and what specifically was that impact?
Well, the person who just leaped into my mind was a pretty famous person, Babatunde Olatunji.
And what'd you mainly get from them?
He he taught me how to play with others,
Ah,
and he taught me how to look deeper into people's motivation. He was very intuitive about people, and he was always traveling, always playing with different people. He had to get along with them. He wasn't that he was conflict free by any means, but he was a very charming person, very talented, very generous, hugely generous. And he taught me a lot about music. He taught me, if you can walk, you can dance. Uh, if you can talk, you can sing. He just brought a lot of joy and expressivity into our lives. He Donna and I loved him, and vice versa. He was a really good influence in our lives at that time, and we were doing a lot of growth work at the time as well. And so he introduced us to a community, so very uh, really opened up a lot of doors, both in just in public, but in our own minds. Taught us a lot about different kinds of spirituality, for example, and so that was a big gift.
yeah, he was huge too. In my regard, it was like before they started calling world music at record stores. Olatunji's album was known in America as "This is African Drumming Album." This is it. This is the cool African drumming album. And then Santana kind of ripped off a couple of his licks and kind of paid him about 40 years later, I supposedly. But I'm sure he didn't hold it against him. I got to see him at a record store in LA once do a free concert. And the first thing he did was he went outside the record store and had us all go out there, and he took a drink of whiskey or something and poured it on the ground. It was some sort of ritual, and it was just like, this is too cool.
Yeah. Yeah, he was a showman.
Did your parents raise you a particular religion?
Yes, my mother made me go to a United Church when I was probably 3 or 4. And then we went to a United Church until I was 12. And then I went to a school, a boarding school, and it was Anglican. And so I went to chapel 13 times a week for 6 years.
Wow. Now, do you pray now?
I don't call it praying. I prayed a lot when I was in the Anglican church. I really tried to open my heart to Jesus and pray to Jesus. And when Jesus didn't actually appear to me in a glowing light in front of me, I thought, well, it's not really working for me. So when I went to university, I ran into a fellow named John Rom, Bucky Rom, we called him, and we started talking Eastern religions.
Yeah.
And so I got into Zen, Sufism, and so I did a lot of meditation, Zen type meditation. I did Siddha yoga. I studied that for a long time with Muktananda. We studied with Oscar Chazo in New York at Eureka. Then that's sort of fourth way kind of stuff. So now I do meditation, but it's kind of just I don't do any mantras or anything. It just quietens the mind, and
Yeah.
I can do that. So I'm kind of to be really blunt and direct. I don't believe there's a God out there somewhere.
Yeah.
I believe that nature's the creator.
Yeah.
And that if we want to learn something about spirituality, then we should see what nature's doing about it.
Yeah. Okay, but this is the what if. What if God does exist? What would you like God to say to you after you die?
What would I like him to say?
Yeah.
Mark, you were wrong.
I love it. I'm glad because this whole thing is to have fun. So, do evil people exist, or does evil use people as a vehicle?
I don't think evil is a disembodied persona. So I think if there's evil, it lives in people's hearts,
Yeah.
and they got to take responsibility for it.
Yes. There you go. I like that because the next question is, how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? And I'll set it up with a few thoughts. Coppola stole from the Mob and the Samurai. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. JFK said, forgive your enemy, but don't forget their name. And Fellini says, I need an enemy. But I'm curious if you could respond to Alan Watts. He says, if you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them. What's your thoughts on that line?
Well, if you what does he mean by acknowledge? So if you identify that you think there's an evil person there, and you identify that, is that acknowledging? Okay,
Yeah.
so you're paying attention to this person rather than just turning away and getting out of there, which is one strategy you could use. Does seeing their evil, does that does that empower them? I don't think so. I don't want to take responsibility for that.
Yeah.
I don't want to take responsibility for their evil behavior and their actions, and I don't want to say I'm contributing to it just by witnessing it and seeing it. I want them not to be evil, and that's got to come from them.
Really? But if a friend comes to you and says, "I'm being bullied by this enemy," what advice would you give them?
Try to keep your distance.
Yeah, that's good. And Nassim Taleb said, games were created to give non-heroes the illusion of winning. In real life, we don't know. That's funny, isn't it? In real life, we don't know who wins or loses, but we can tell who an enemy, or excuse me, we can tell who a hero is. And so Gregory Bateson says, when the criminal gets caught, does he go, whoa, my criminal skills weren't up to snuff? Or does he go, oh, I did something morally and socially wrong? So again, it's a lot of prompts, but the basic question is, does punishment work?
I think it sometimes definitely works. I think that people get punished and they say, I'm never going to do that again.
Yes.
I've seen examples of that, and I've seen examples of people who've suffered badly and they haven't changed their behavior.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how do you answer that? Yes, and sometimes no.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. It's
the way that people are punished probably says more about the punisher than the punished one.
yeah.
You know, there's lots of ways of punishing people, and some of them are genuinely cruel. And we see lots of examples of that in your country.
Yeah. Yeah, it's called
and ours too.
Yeah, it's called prison industrial complex.
Yeah.
But does, then it's like I've always struggled with how to word that question because it's so blatant. It's like, does punishment work? And a lot of people go, no, and they're talking about the prison industrial complex. But then should I say, well, does punishment work better than rehabilitation, or should I use? I don't know how to ask the question. In other words, I don't know how to introduce the word rehabilitation. Then do I go, well, does rehabilitation help?
Well, what about burning yourself on the stove? Does that work?
Yeah.
If you put your hand on the burner and you're not going to do it again. So sometimes punishment is going to work. Like we learn by things backfiring on us. I mean, I learned lots of lessons by falling and I learned a lot about punishment playing sports. And
God, well, Marshall, that so applies to me in bike riding, because I was so intrigued when you said bicycle, because I ride a bike 3 times a day, and there's a lot of traffic where I ride my bike, but there's a lot of places where I'm riding on a bike path and it's real nice, and it's beautiful near the ocean or whatever. And now it's ridden with electric bikes and scooters, which drives us all nuts because they're not regulated. And they say on the electric scooter, it says, do not operate on the boardwalk, but we can rent them to you. And what are you going to do? Go in the back alley and walk it there? I mean, it's so blah, blah, blah. I could rant on forever. But the lesson is, one day I rode my bike and it was after a Zoom and I was all spaced out, and I thought the car was moving. I just ran into the side of this car with my bike. Not really bad, but my bike fell over. I kind of cut my finger a little. And I thought, this guy is going to come out and beat the shit out of me. And he came out of his car, talk about empathy, and he goes, are you okay? And he didn't even look like, what'd you do to my car? He just was human. And I freaked out. I goes, well, thank you for caring. I made a bad mistake. The timing was bad. I'm sorry. He kind of looked at his car and says, okay, bye. And I was just shocked. I said, Gerry, learn your lesson. Don't fucking scoot through the traffic like you're Superman, like you've done for 30 years. Go a little slower. I didn't learn my lesson. I am so on automatic pilot that it's like I can't do that. So, I mean, all the power to you that you can do that. That leads to a question that I skipped. So I used that example of the burner in the hand.
Oh,
Here it goes. This is a McLuhan line. He says everybody experiences far more than they understand. Yet it is experience rather than understanding that influences behavior. Now, the way I interpret this could be wrong. I'm just going to tell you mine and then I'll let you tell me yours. I think it's like when the kid comes in from the cold, the parent goes, "Don't touch the stove, it will burn your hand." That's called experience. Understanding is the parent going, "I'm going to teach you the dynamics of heat. You can get really close to the stove, rub your hands together near it, and get your hands warm." And that's called understanding. So I think Marshall's sort of saying we should have understanding shaping our behavior, but usually experience shapes our behavior more. Now I can read the whole quote again, or you can just go off if you want.
again, it's the big question there is more. Which is more influential,
Right.
experience or
Yeah.
understanding? And it in my experience, experience has an impact.
Yeah.
It influences me, even when I don't understand what the heck is happening.
Yeah.
And I have my own experiences of coming to understand something and being able to make it work.
Yeah.
So and have it work for me rather than not work for me anymore. So I value both the experience because a lot of times we get a lesson before we even know what it is,
Yeah.
and we happen into it. And sometimes those are the best lessons that we're going to have, and sometimes it takes a lot of work. I had to do a lot of work with, for example, Peter Levine to do. He was doing sort of Reiki and body work. He's a really well-known trauma person now. Works with people who've been traumatized, and I worked with Peter back in the '80s to work out some family issues, and there was stuff in my body that Peter could identify and liberate from my body that I could let go of.
Wow.
And I needed to learn that. I had the experience in me. I was really pissed off with my father about some things, and it was really interfering with having a terrific relationship with him.
Yeah.
And Peter helped me let it go. He showed me, and so I come away with an understanding that I was holding a lot of anger and disappointment in my body that I let go. And
Wow.
it just so happened it coincided with me starting to study African music.
Wow.
So I was just filled with a lot of gratitude.
Amazing.
And I carry that on, and that experience kind of still lives with me. So, I want to acknowledge Peter and thank him for that, and also testify to the fact that my experience was able to be converted into understanding.
Yeah.
And I had to go pretty deep to do that.
Yeah.
To get
Yeah.
that
I like how you emphasize the word more, because I'm saying experience or understanding. I do these false dichotomies all the time because there's so much gray area, but it's good that you emphasize the word more, because of course it's both. That, and back to Turing, I didn't mention this Turing quote, but he said, "What we want is a machine that can learn from experience." And that's what our town is also overrun by Waymos, robot cars, and they have 27 cameras on a car. No human has 27 cameras on their head. They can't see. It's safer to rent a Waymo than have your friend drive you in a car. But I'm not going to hire one. But they say, it's in the Herzog documentary, when one Waymo, one robot car makes a mistake, it goes into the memory of all the rest of all the other Waymos and they retain it. when we were kids and our parents said, okay, when it's icy on the road, pump your brakes slowly, and then you crash the car, and then your parents go, we told you, and then you don't retain that. You go, well, I forgot, sorry. So, are the machines going to learn from experience? That's sort of, we don't know, but we kind of think it's happening. But the way you distinguish, Marshall, really brought up two T.S. Eliot quotes. One is he says they had the experience but missed the meaning. So much of us, we have experience but we miss the meaning. And the other one he says is poetry can communicate before it's understood.
Yeah.
And so the both of those are pretty immense.
Yeah.
Now,
I agree with both those quotes.
Yeah.
I embrace them.
Yeah.
I think that's very true. We have a lot of experiences. We don't know what they mean.
Yeah.
And sometimes reflection's necessary. And I think a lot of people, unfortunately, suffer from experiences because they don't go deeply enough into understanding what happened.
Yeah.
So it's like, you did this to me and I'll never forgive you, kind of.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Working with conflict has really taught me a lot, and it shows me how I make decisions about people and how I need to park them. And I've met people or in organizations, and you make judgments about them, and then you find out by getting to know them through their stories they're telling about what's going on, that you totally misunderstood who this person was. It's like peeling the layers back.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of dialectic, just to speak to your point about more, there's a lot of false dialectics out there.
Yeah.
And a lot of hierarchizing of things.
Yeah.
And we just find out that I kind of picture it more like a sliding scale between two poles. Maybe there's poles there somewhere, but a lot of times people are moving back and forth, and we've got to be able to pay attention to that.
Yeah, that's pay attention to it and pay attention. But that's Pascal, the philosopher, mathematician, said, in order to understand anything, you have to know this end of the spectrum and that end and everything in between. Yeah, it's like pattern recognition leads to comprehensive awareness.
Well, I think that goes to your point about Jung. That he wanted people to play the whole spectrum.
Yeah.
He says it's possible, and you don't have to go there, but you can know that it's there and that it could be haunting you.
Yeah.
And so that life's a big adventure, So I've had a lot of great teachers. I've mentioned some of them already today, and I'm grateful for the things that I've learned because I needed to, because I was just a 2-year-old kid pushing a chair,
Pushing a chair on the ice. It's such a great visual, the way you described it, because I grew up ice skating too in Michigan. But, I asked for 90 minutes and it's already 90, and I really appreciate this, Marshall, but I do hope we can do a part 2, and I do hope I can invite Donna to do one of these too. I would recommend people listening to our podcast on conflict resolution, because you and her suss that out beautifully. And, in part 2, we can go into you as an educator, because I have big things about Marshall's thing on education and entertainment, and your pursuit in photography and framing aesthetic, and your pursuit in musics. And so down the line, maybe even 4 or 5 months, we can plan a part 2. And I really want to thank you for your time and energy. It's always been enlightening and fun to talk to you, Marshall. Thank you so much.
And you too, Gerry. Thank you for inviting me. I really honor the work that you're doing and appreciate being asked to be on your program. A lot of people talk about you. And it's good. You're doing good work.
Thank you so much. And even though I'm going to hit the end broadcast button, I hope this never ends and we can keep talking forever and ever. Thank you. Thank you so much, Marshall. Love you, man.
Okay, see.